Hello, everyone. This week we're talking about modernism versus fundamentalism. I wanted to share with you all about a man by the name of E.J. or Ernest James Pace. Ernest James Pace drew cartoons for the Sunday School Times for about 30 years, from about 1915 to 1946. Aside from being a cartoonist, though, he was actually a fairly well-respected theologian. Um, in 1924, just 1 year before the Scopes trial, William Jennings Bryan published a work called Seven Questions in Dispute. And in this book, he outlined the fundamentals of the faith, things like the deity of Christ, Christ's atonement, death on the cross, and the inerrancy of the Bible. And he discussed very, very neatly and very eloquently in fine Bryan style each of these points in argument against modernism and against, in particular, Darwinism. It's no wonder that Bryan was buoyed by this book and this publication, and why he was encouraged to actually be the fellow to argue at the Scopes trial a year later. The thing about Pace, though, is that in Bryan's book, in each of the chapters, there are 7 chapters, and before each chapter there's an illustration, there's a cartoon. And with my 21st century brain, when I first saw this, I thought, well, Bryan contracted an artist or an illustrator to illustrate each of his points. Well, after doing a little research about E.J. Pace, it turns out he was actually a theologian. He grew up in Columbus, Ohio. He was discovered by a journalist in church. He was drawing in church one day, and a journalist suggested that he actually go to work for a newspaper. He went to work for a secular newspaper in Chicago for a time, but then he felt a calling to the Christian world. He attended seminary. He actually got his graduate and doctoral work completed through the Kennedy Missions School, which was part of the Hartford Theological Seminary. About 1914, though, however, right after he finished his thesis, a woman by the name of Julia Mott Hodge rebuked him because Pace had been taking on some of the aspects of modernism, and even in his particular theology, and probably in his cartoons as well. And he later thanked her for that rebuke, because it turned him 180 degrees toward the fundamentalist side. He went on missions to the Philippines with his family. He stayed over there for a time, came back because of illness, and began drawing more frequently for the Sunday School Times. He published some works. He published 7 editions of his cartoons from year to year, from 1915 to 1922, and then he did, of course, the work for William Jennings Bryan. E.J. Pace died in 1946 after a long career of missionary work, theological work, and of course his brilliant and highly approachable cartoons and illustrations. If you go to calvarycomics.com, there is a book, a biography on E.J. Pace, written by Alex Stevens, if you want to check it out.